Las Vegas, the city of dreams. Millions visit every year. But this city has secrets. It wasn't built by dreamers. It was built by the mob, the military, and a whole lot of desperate people. This is the story they don't put on the billboards. I'm Gio, and trust me, this one gets dark. Let's start at the beginning. When there was nothing here but scorpions and sand, no one, and I mean no one, thought this would become anything. For thousands of years, this was one of the harshest places on Earth. Summer temperatures hit 120 degrees, almost no water, almost no shade. The only people who lived here were the southern Paiute tribes. They knew where to find water. They knew how to survive. Everyone else? They just passed through. Spanish explorers called it a shortcut, a brutal, deadly shortcut. Wagon trains avoided it. Railroads went around it. This wasn't a place to build a city. This was a place to die. And then, in 1905, everything changed. The railroad needed a water stop, and this forgotten patch of desert had one thing going for it: water. Just enough to keep the trains running. That tiny railroad town? It almost died before it started. A few hundred people, some saloons, not much else. But 30 miles away, something massive was about to happen. 1931, the Great Depression. America was desperate, and the government had a crazy idea: build the biggest dam the world had ever seen. 21,000 men showed up looking for work, in the middle of nowhere. They worked in 120-degree heat, hanging off cliffs, pouring concrete day and night. 96 workers died building it. But in 1936, they finished. The Hoover Dam. Enough electricity to power a city, enough water to make the desert bloom. And that little railroad town 30 miles away? It suddenly had a future, but electricity wasn't what made Vegas rich. 1931, the same year they started building the dam, Nevada did something crazy. They legalized gambling. While the rest of America said no to casinos, Nevada said yes, and certain people in New York noticed. His name was Benjamin Siegel, but everyone called him Bugsy, just not to his face. He hated that name. Bugsy was a killer, a real one. But he had a dream: to build a palace in the desert, a casino like no one had ever seen. He called it the Flamingo, and he didn't care what it cost, which was a problem because it wasn't his money. He was spending mob money, millions of it, and his partners back east were getting very, very nervous. 1946, the Flamingo finally opened. Pink walls, palm trees, Hollywood celebrities everywhere. But opening night was a disaster. Bad weather kept the big crowds away. The casino lost money, a lot of money. Bugsy had spent $6 million of mob money. In 1946, that was a fortune, and he couldn't pay it back. June 20th, 1947. Bugsy was at his girlfriend's house in Beverly Hills, reading the newspaper, relaxed. 9 bullets came through that window. The man who built Las Vegas died on his girlfriend's couch. Nobody was ever charged. But here's the thing: the Flamingo didn't die with him. The mob took over, and they made it work. Bugsy's crazy dream became a billion-dollar blueprint, and every crime family in America wanted a piece. Las Vegas was officially open for business, and business was about to get very, very strange. The 1950s. America was booming, and Vegas was exploding. Every year a new casino, bigger, flashier, each one trying to outdo the last. The Sands, the Sahara, the Desert Inn. Names that became legendary, and behind every single one, the mob. They had a system. It was called the skim, and it was beautifully simple. Before the money got counted for taxes, the mob took their cut. Millions of dollars, straight into suitcases, straight to the bosses back east. But Vegas wasn't just about gambling. They needed to bring people in, so they invented the entertainment capital of the world. Showgirls with feathers and sequins, choreographed spectacles that cost more than most movies. And the biggest names in music? They all came to Vegas because the money was unbelievable. The Rat Pack made the Sands their home. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., they turned Vegas into cool. But behind the velvet ropes and the champagne, Vegas had rules, mob rules, and you did not break them. Dealers who stole got their hands broken. People who talked to the feds? They disappeared. The desert is very good at keeping secrets. For 20 years, this was Vegas. Glamour and violence, Sinatra on stage and bodies in the desert. It couldn't last forever. But before the mob fell, Vegas had one more surprise. And this one came from the sky. Because the U.S. government decided to test nuclear bombs 65 miles from the Strip, and Vegas turned it into a party. 1951. The Cold War was heating up. America needed to test its nuclear weapons, and they needed somewhere empty to do it. The Nevada test site, 65 miles from downtown Las Vegas, close enough to see the flash from your hotel room. Now, a normal city might be worried about nuclear explosions in their backyard, but this was Vegas. They saw an opportunity. Hotels started advertising the best views of the blasts. They published schedules so tourists could plan their trips around detonations. Rooftop parties became the hottest ticket in town. People would wake up at 4 in the morning, grab a cocktail, and wait for the show. And then, the sky would light up brighter than the sun, a massive fireball rising into the heavens. And the crowd would cheer. Casinos created atomic-themed cocktails. The atomic bomb was rum, vodka, brandy, and champagne. Probably needed one after watching that. They even crowned a Miss Atomic Energy, a beauty queen dressed as a mushroom cloud. I am not making this up. Between 1951 and 1962, they detonated over 100 nuclear bombs above ground, just outside of town. The fallout drifted across Nevada, Utah, Arizona. People downwind got sick. Some died, but the tests kept coming. Vegas didn't care. The bombs were good for business. Tourists kept coming. The casinos kept skimming, and the party never stopped. By 1963, above-ground testing finally ended, but Vegas had already moved on to its next chapter, and this one involved the strangest billionaire in American history. 1966. A train pulled into Las Vegas carrying the richest man in America, Howard Hughes, and nobody knew he was coming. Hughes checked into the penthouse of the Desert Inn. He told them he'd stay a few weeks. He stayed 4 years and never left the room. He was terrified of germs. He covered his hands with tissues before touching anything. He watched the same movies over and over, sometimes the same scene 100 times. After a few months, the Desert Inn wanted him out. They needed the penthouse for high-rolling gamblers, so Hughes did what any reasonable person would do. He bought the entire hotel. Then he bought the Sands, then the Frontier, then the Castaways, then the Silver Slipper. Hughes was buying Vegas one casino at a time, all from that dark penthouse room. He never met anyone face to face, just handwritten notes passed under the door. Running a casino empire in his pajamas. But here's the thing, Hughes hated the mob, and the mob hated that this crazy hermit was buying up their city. For the first time, someone was pushing back. Hughes cleaned house, fired mob-connected managers, brought in his own people. The skim started to dry up. The suitcases of cash stopped flowing back east. The mob families were losing their golden goose. But Hughes didn't save Vegas out of goodness. He was just as ruthless, just differently crazy, and eventually even he had to leave. 1970. Hughes left Vegas as mysteriously as he arrived, carried out on a stretcher in the middle of the night. He never came back, but the damage was done. Hughes had shown that you could run Vegas without the mob, and the corporations were paying attention. The 1970s. The FBI had been watching Vegas for years. They knew about the skim, they knew about the murders, and they were building their case. They wiretapped the casinos. They flipped informants. One by one, the mob bosses started falling. 1986, the Kansas City mob trial. Dozens of convictions. The skim was over. The mob's grip on Vegas was finally broken. But Vegas didn't die without the mob. It transformed. Because the corporations saw a gold mine. And they had a plan. 1989. Steve Wynn opened the Mirage, a 3,000-room mega resort with a volcano out front. Vegas would never be the same. Then came the arms race. Bigger, crazier. A pyramid, a castle, a replica of New York City, an Eiffel Tower. Each resort trying to out-spectacle the last. They didn't just want gamblers anymore. They wanted families, tourists, conventions, Anyone with a credit card. The casinos got smarter too. Algorithms replaced gut instinct. Every game calculated to maximize profit. The house always wins, now with mathematics to prove it. Today, Las Vegas makes more money from hotels, shows, and restaurants than from gambling. The mob couldn't have imagined it. 40 million visitors a year now, more than the entire population of Canada, all coming to this patch of desert that nobody wanted. From mob bosses to corporate boards, from showgirls to Cirque du Soleil, from atomic bombs to celebrity DJs. Vegas keeps reinventing itself. But is that the whole story? Not quite, because underneath the shiny new Vegas, the darkness never really left. Every night the strip lights up, millions of bulbs, billions of dollars, the greatest show on earth. But walk a few blocks in any direction and you'll find a different Vegas. Gambling addiction destroys thousands of lives here every year. The casinos are designed to keep you playing. No clocks, no windows, free drinks. It's not an accident. People come here to win big. Most leave with less than they came with. Some lose everything, their savings, their homes, their families. And then there are the tunnels. Underneath the strip, hundreds of miles of storm drains. And inside those drains, people live there. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, living in the dark underneath the casinos. Some are addicts. Some have mental illness. Some just ran out of luck in a city built on luck running out. When it rains in Vegas, and it does rain, those tunnels flood. Fast. People have died down there, swept away while tourists complained about wet shoes. Vegas has one of the highest homeless populations in America, but you won't see them on the strip. The casinos make sure of that. The workers don't have it easy either. Cocktail waitresses walking miles in heels every shift. Housekeepers cleaning 30 rooms a day. Building the dream for minimum wage. And water. Vegas is running out of water. Lake Mead, the reservoir that keeps this city alive, is drying up. The bathtub ring around it gets bigger every year. A city of fountains and swimming pools in the middle of a desert. Scientists say it can't last forever. Vegas says, hold my drink. That's the thing about Vegas. It's always been impossible. A city that shouldn't exist. And somehow it keeps existing anyway. But every story needs an ending. So let's go back to where we started, the desert, and ask the question that matters. So, what is Las Vegas? A monument to human greed? A playground for the rich? A graveyard of broken dreams? Maybe. But it's also something else. It's proof that humans can build anything, anywhere, even where they absolutely shouldn't. This city was built by desperate workers in the Depression, by mobsters who saw opportunity, by a crazy billionaire in his pajamas, by corporations chasing profit. None of them were heroes. Most of them weren't even good people. But together they built something that 40 million people visit every year. Will it last? Honestly? I don't know. The water is running out. The climate is changing. The desert always wins eventually. But if history teaches us anything, it's this. Never bet against Vegas. This city has survived everything, and it's still standing. Remember what I said at the beginning? They see the lights, the casinos, the money. Now you know what's underneath. The mob, the bombs, the billionaires, the broken dreams. That's the dark truth about Las Vegas. I'm Gio. Thanks for watching. If you learned something, hit subscribe. I've got more stories like this coming. And remember, in Vegas, the house always wins. But at least now you know how the house was built.